as parents, if we understand sex abuse and sex trafficking and speak to our children, it would definitely make a huge difference in their understanding of the crime. Hey guys, this is Ijaz. I am the director for Trap. It's going to be out in January 2025. We will be in theaters.
She's only 16.
Where is she? Did you find her?
A girl's body has been found.
In the interviews that I've done with survivors who have survived sex trafficking and abuse, when the person getting abused gets abused by someone for such a long time, or in some cases not a long time, but gets abused, they refuse to come out and speak about the abuser. And the abuser mentally grips them and gets into their brain. And that's one of the reasons why they can't let loose. So, yes, it is a physical crime, yes. But more than a physical crime, it is a mental crime. And they just know how to get into the minds of our children or in the minds of the person that they are abusing. And hence, the victims do not come forward and do not go to court and do not say anything bad about the abuser, because if they did, probably the sentencing in court would be more. But these criminals, they get away with it because the girls don't want to, because the abuser has so much mental impact on them, even after they have stopped working, even after they have left. I mean, I was interviewing a girl, and she said to me, she said, I'm not in touch with my abuser for over 5 years now. But if I was in court and he was in court, if I had to testify against him, I would not be able to do it. Then I had another girl who I was interviewing said to me that she was shot in her chest by her abuser. And when she healed, she went right back to him. I had another girl say to me that she was abused by her abuser, but now she knows that he was doing wrong, but she would still not wish any harm on him. And these are girls that have been out of the business, so to speak, or have been out of our, have put their lives together and are living a normal life, but they still will not go against the person who abused them. So I discussed it with some undercover cops and people who are professionals in this industry, to understand a little bit about why. And the things that they have said totally shocked me.
The overwhelming majority of sex trafficking is now occurring on the internet, right? Social media. That's still to this day one of the largest recruiting grounds that there are. Look at social media as a whole. Both traffickers and trafficking victims and survivors post a lot of stuff to the internet. So do the overwhelming majority of most people. So if I'm a trafficker, I can sit back and do a few things. One is share the life that I'm living, whether it be popping champagne with my jewelry and driving a Lexus and making everything look like this big bolsterous, look at all the things I have and can do. And at the same breath, you have a potential victim who's posting, say, on social media, that they need help because Christmas is coming. They need help because they're trying to get through the holidays. They need help because they got laid off of a job. They need help because of, and then this is where in basic terms, some asshole comes along and sees this on social media and then is like, hey, I have something we can do to fix this. I'll be your boyfriend, So now we've got this boyfriending, we've got this befriending, this trust being built. And then boom, here we cycle into the actual trafficking and commercial sex.
The only thing that prevents someone who's doing activities online, like visually looking at things and getting sexual gratification from imagery or videos that are online. The only thing that prevents that person from being a hands-on, offender is access and availability. That's really the only two things that block that child from being a hands-on victim. Now, granted, they're still victimized if they send inappropriate material, pictures and videos or whatever. That child is still victimized. They're still a victim. It just runs the gamut from what we see when we do arrest these individuals and some of the claims they make in court, where I never met that child in real life, and they look at it as a victimless crime, and it's not a victimless crime. It's very much victim oriented, and that's how we strive to work our investigations. We are victim focused. Now, there are places you can go in this world, in other countries, where it's not frowned upon for an adult to have a sexual encounter with a child. And sadly, that feeds a lot of people who have this propensity. And so things are being done and produced and made in sometimes other countries, but I don't want to send the message that it's another country's problem. It's not another country's problem. It's a problem here in the US, because what I will tell you is the number one consumer of that type of material is the United States of America.
You're saying that of the child exploitation happens by the adult that some way is in connection, either the parent or the uncle or the cousin or whoever.
Yeah, they have to have access to the child in order to be able to sexually abuse the child. And so it's people who are in positions of trust and responsibility over children who have the access and the ability to abuse those children. That's how abuse happens. It isn't strangers. It isn't, it's someone you know.
One girl in particular, I think she ended up being 17. We arrested her and immediately, unhandcuff her, tell her she's safe, and start talking to her. And as soon as we tell her she's safe, she immediately vomits all over the table. It was probably the first time she'd felt safe in a long time, and she'd just been arrested. She ended up providing us a lot of information about, for lack of no other term, her pimp that had taken her at gunpoint while she was younger. Very little parental involvement, very sad background of this girl. But we were able to get her to safety, and once she started telling us about what had happened, we were able to go after this guy and a couple of associates and put them in jail for a very, very long time. That was not the norm, where most of the time we have a very hard time getting, I'll just say girls in this case, but girls to talk and give up that information. It's a huge culture of psychological abuse and intimidation, and we've got to work to break those cycles. And part of it is we as a society have to do better taking care of our youth, and a lot of these children that are trafficked come from really bad backgrounds. And I feel like we miss opportunities as a society to intervene and help in cases before they end up in these situations.
Our film Trap, it speaks about that they mentally break you down. You are not thinking anymore. You are doing what they ask you to do. You're doing what they want you to do. I think that is the bigger crime. Yes, physical abuse is the crime. And I think it's the worst thing that anyone can do. But I think that mental abuse stays for a very, very long time. And I think mental abuse is something that is much more stronger, and it stays with the person, and sometimes they can't shake it at all. I have two boys, and the things that I know now, I wish I had incorporated these things while they were growing up. I mean, thank God everything is fine. My boys are good, and nothing of this sort happened to them. But can you imagine if some outsider takes a hold of your child's brain and they think that this person is better than the dad and the mom. And that's what happens. That is what happens. What happens is that the abuser totally hijacks their brain, and then your child or your loved one is basically thinking what this person wants them to think.
Please say something. I don't even know where we are or where we're going.
Come on, let's go to my ranch.
I urge you guys to go watch our film Trapped. It will help us in protecting our children by speaking to them, simply speaking to them, by simply bringing the awareness to the subject and having a conversation with your loved ones.
You'll be very happy there.